Hi, I'm Kim Bolton. I'm a program director at Unum Group, and I'm joined today by Jerry Gschwind, a learning strategies consultant. Jerry and I partnered together to come up with a solution to educate and equip Unum's 1,200 managers to move the company into the future, and we're going to talk to you today about how we did that. Unum is a large financial protection benefits products company. We have our products distributed through 4 major businesses: Unum US, Unum UK, Colonial Life, and most recently, Starmount added dental and vision to our disability and life portfolio. We're 265 on the Fortune 500 list, and we protect 33 million people worldwide. We're number 1 in group, individual disability, and third in voluntary benefits. So what I would like to talk about now is the culture at Unum and how it has transitioned over the past several years. When you think about insurance companies, you usually think about words like corporate, rigid, regulated, risk-averse. But as our market has changed, our customers and our employees are also changing, and so our culture has to change. Over the last several years, we've transitioned and started using phrases like unwavering customer focus, which means that we actually assess our customer satisfaction based on the voice of the customer rather than on just our metrics. We talk about an appreciation for differences, which means that we appreciate the diversity in people and employees, especially diversity of thought and perspective. We also talk about the appetite for smart risk and empowering employees to take those smart risks, because that's what drives innovation, and innovation will allow our company to survive. As we move into this new culture, and as we also take into account the complexity of a multi-generational workforce and the ever-changing market conditions and the changes that are happening within Unum to respond to those changing conditions, our managers also need to change. Typically at Unum, managers have been promoted or selected based on their performance in an individual contributor role. If they're doing well in that role, then the next step is logically to manage people performing that same function. That has worked well in the past because they can tactically oversee the day-to-day activities of employees and monitor processes. But as we move into the future, this is not going to be enough. So turning our managers into leaders is increasingly important. The concepts on this slide talk about some of the competencies that need to be instilled in our managers. Instilling a vision and aligning clear goals to corporate strategy are very important because we need to understand what we're doing and why we're doing it. Developing and coaching to higher performance in a way that doesn't demotivate, but actually inspires you to reach your full potential. Leading and supporting employees through change, because the only thing that isn't going to change is that change is going to happen. And modeling leadership at all those levels. We had some options for managers in place already before we started on this project, but they were not developing the managers at a pace and with the core competencies that we needed them to be developed. The new manager program was 18 months long. It was a combination of live sessions and independent study. Inside Out Coaching is a 2-day session that was very successful for our more tenured managers, but showed us that our less tenured managers lacked critical competencies that were needed as prerequisites to that session. And we also had various online options which required the learner to identify their own developmental and also to find the content that would satisfy that gap. So our current programs did not address the problems. So I'm going to turn it over to Jerry now, and he's going to tell you about the solution we created and tested.
Great, thank you, Kim. So to address the problems that Kim described on her previous slide, we created something called the Manager Learning Experiment. We called it an experiment because it was truly a pilot. We selected 50 managers from Unum's management team and put them through a 6-week learning experience. This experience was centered around 1 to 2 hour bite-sized nuggets of content that we called missions, and I'll get into that, what a mission is in a second. Missions as self-study exercises by themselves, though, we knew wouldn't be enough. So we surrounded those exercises with opportunities to collaborate with peers. So we actually grouped the 50 managers into smaller groups of 7 to 8 people. Those missions were taken by those peer groups on a once per week basis. So there were 6 missions total, and each week the peer group together completed 1 mission. We also gave them access to an expert moderator. This was a person, a senior manager. This actually was Kim was the expert moderator for the pilot, and it was a senior manager who could provide feedback and guidance and expertise. A third role that was important to the experience as well was an experienced facilitator. This was an individual who helped make sure that participants' questions were answered, that they were able to get support with navigating through the technology platform that we used to deliver the solution, and that they just generally got the most out of the experience. One important step we took before launching our pilot was to figure out what we were going to teach, and we spent a great deal of time on this, and it was time well spent. We convened a team of senior leaders at Unum that represented every function, and we identified key competencies that related to Unum's strategy that would help our managers transform from management to leadership. And we came up with 4 that we identified: interpersonal effectiveness, leading change, elevating performance, and strategic decision making. For the pilot, though, we decided we needed to focus on a single one of those, so we selected interpersonal effectiveness. So here's what interpersonal effectiveness looked like in our pilot. We developed, as I said, 6 missions. They were to be taken once per week, and here they are. We hosted this content in a terrific platform known as Everwise. Everwise enabled us to put the missions together. We did that on our own through the platform, and also it provided the ability to pull people in and provide a collaborative space for people to discuss online as they went through each of the missions themselves. The content we pulled from a number of different sources. We pulled some content just from the public domain. We pulled other content from Unum itself. There was content that Unum people had created in the past that we pulled in. And then we also pulled in content that Unum had purchased in the past. In this case, we used some modules from lynda.com. A typical mission structure really had 4 components to it. And you're looking here at an example of self-aware communication, one of the missions in our pilot. You typically would start by reading or watching a video that would give you some information about the subject you may not have understood before. Then there would be an opportunity to collaborate and answer questions and get feedback on that content from your peers. And then we would always come up with an activity, something that a person could do with that content on the job. So we would actually design that ourselves and give them a way to apply what they had learned. And then finally, we would provide any additional resources or tools they could use to continue to execute that particular concept or skill on the job. Like any good experiment, we did some measurement and got some interesting results. So this is one cut of results where we asked the participants to self-report whether or not they were applying the skills we taught through the if they were applying those skills on a day-to-day basis on the job. The purple bars represent our pre-assessment. The yellow bars represent our post-assessment. And you can see we were very pleased. We got a significant bump in self-reported application of these skills on a daily basis after the pilot. So we were very, very pleased with those results. We were equally pleased with self-reported confidence with interpersonal skills. So here you'll see before the pilot, that yellow bar in particular shows we only had about 45% of our managers who said they had high confidence in their interpersonal skills prior to the pilot. After the pilot, that number shot up to close to 70%. So again, we were really pleased that with just that 6-week, about 1 to 2 hours a week, we were able to get those sorts of results. Now I'm going to turn it back to Kim. She's going to talk about our key takeaways from this pilot, and then also what we're thinking about as we look ahead. Kim?
Thanks. So we had a lot of learnings from this experiment. It was highly successful. That was my first takeaway. But these on the slide are kind of the tactical, logistical takeaways. First of all, there really wasn't a clear difference between managers that really preferred a cohort-driven experience versus a self-paced. So that told me that I needed to provide a flexible program that offered options for both. The peer group engagement varied distinctly by group, so we're definitely taking a deep dive there to figure out how we can improve that experience as we launch this to a broader audience. Manager time is definitely limited, so making sure that we are delivering this in those bite-sized nuggets so that they can apply it directly to their job is very, very important. And being able to apply it through activities that don't add to their normal task list is also very important. The broader, more strategic takeaways for me were, first of all, that we did a really good job figuring out what to teach. So the process that we went through, trying to determine what the gaps really were at this level, was very successful and could be replicated. There's also a learning that there's real value in outsourcing pieces of this solution to experts in the field. And lastly, a learning that I had that I really didn't expect was it's very important to have a platform that you can update easily and in real time. We actually had a situation where during one of the missions, someone reached out in a peer group and said, I don't feel like I have enough information to do the activity that you've given me to do. Could you please provide some more? And we did. And we were able to do that very quickly, almost immediately. And the people that accessed the missions after that never knew that that piece of information wasn't there. So as we move forward, that's going to be very important as we keep our content up to date. So looking forward, we will scale this approach to the rest of the managers in the company. We're going to build out the other competencies that Jerry talked about. Then we will, for our less tenured managers who really seem to get the most out of this pilot, we're going to send them through the curriculum in a cohort-driven experience, very similar to what you just saw. For the other managers that are at Unum but are more tenured, we're going to allow them to have access to that curriculum and the platform and use that material as they deem appropriate and on demand. We will be using business leaders to moderate the cohort groups and facilitate those. Another great success of this is that we're not using this only just for our manager curriculum, which we originally sourced for, but we're also using it in the Accelerated Leadership Program, which is a program at Unum for people that are aspiring to be leaders who are now individual contributors. And they're going to go through the interpersonal effectiveness piece of this curriculum, just like we did in the pilot. And so we're already finding applications for this curriculum outside of the original purpose, and other business areas are looking at it as well. So I really appreciate the opportunity to talk to you today about this solution, and Jerry, thank you.